Baraka Mishpaka. Well, these wicked ones, they just don't know how to quit. But we're starting to be able to put a face and names, and that's a powerful thing. When you know a person's name that is wicked toward you, they don't even know you, but they're clearly wicked toward you. Did you know that you can put that person and their entire family and friends before the Most High Yahuwah, Eloheinu, Elohim, Hallelujah, Kumbaya. And you can ask Father to look in on Mr. Bill Gates and his family, and Margaret Sanger and her family members, and the constituents that are hating on his creation. And Father will send the unseen hosts to help them out and either heal them and bring them to their senses. Or, well, Father did say he's preparing the lake for the wicked. Hallelujah. Kumbaya. But let's check in on what a young lady is saying about this latest plan thing from that side of the human being family. I sometimes wonder. Let's see what they're saying.
Take this information across the nation. Well, one of the things that I want to know from you specifically for the Black community is, can you just tell us exactly, we hear them saying so many times, the Black community is disproportionately impacted. How did this virus travel all the way from China, make it all the way around the world, and here in the United States, and now all of a sudden it's racist and attacking Black communities? Help us understand that.
It reminds me of that old joke, like a wife comes home and she sees her husband in bed with another woman, and the husband looks up and goes, "Who are you going to believe, me or your lying eyes?" Right? I mean, come on. First of all, this virus has attacked people all over the world. Asia, South Korea, Japan, China, all over Asia, all over India. The one continent that's been relatively spared is Africa, which I will return to in a moment. One of the reasons
Say that again, Dr. Gary. I don't think they heard. Say that one more time.
I'm gonna give it to you. I'm gonna give it to everybody. Africa is the continent that has been most spared from COVID. But let me explain a little bit about that. I felt that the Black community was being set up to accept these vaccines. The reason I believed that is pretty early on, we heard politicians say that Black people were disproportionately affected and harmed by this virus. As a scientist, that made no sense to me. Why? Because it was true that in certain locations, Black people were overrepresented in the ICU or being hospitalized. But it didn't mean that it was because they were Black. The risk factors that make you more likely to be hospitalized for COVID specifically is obesity, certainly morbid obesity, but just, being overweight and obese. Number one by far. Number two, diabetes. Other variables that mattered was living in very close, tight quarters, working in close, tight quarters. So in areas where that exists in America, which frequently is in the Black community, Blacks were having a higher rate of hospitalization.
What happened?
We're going to pause a minute. Father's protecting Zion, as he said he would. And their plague, self-created, has turned on them 1,000-fold. Hallelujah. Because they deserve it. Because they just don't want to stop hating. And here's what I do know. If you have a vibrant, radiating molecular water and blood structure, because your praising Yah and looking at his magnificent signature flowers like the lotus, the lily, the sunflower, and you're breathing in some of those wonderful perfumes from these particular signature flowers of Yahuwah Eloheinu. And you are meditating on the Master daily and know that you are connected in. You ain't got to worry about none of this foolishness of these people full of sin, because Father got us, just like he commanded, have written for these days, this moment of Shakar Yadah, where, you know, the separation of the wicked from the righteous is taking place. But back to what the lady's saying.
But one thing about me now, I've been in my community working for a long time, and I'm going to continue to do that.
More leery of government programs given to people, right? So I kind of knew that was coming. I took great offense at that because I didn't want to politicize medicine. But you can't ignore what has happened in the Black community with government programs and vaccines. You all, I don't need to tell you about Tuskegee, Henrietta Lacks, but what about the CDC whistleblower? This is only 10 years ago. Dr. William Thompson, a senior scientist at the CDC, came forward very courageously, whistleblower, saying that the CDC forced him to shred the data that showed that when they gave the measles vaccine to little Black children, Black babies did worse than white babies. And the CDC shredded that data and then didn't publish it. And that wasn't the only time. There are multiple instances of where the vaccines have harmed Black people more aggressively than white people. As a scientist, you have to just look at the facts. So I felt there is no science to support that being Black was an independent risk factor. If all of that wasn't enough, when you looked around the world, the one place in the world that has the lowest death rate from COVID is Africa. And when I say lower, let me give you some numbers. In Africa, the death rate from COVID is about 1% of the death rate in America. Now, you can say, is it
to now, because they know they can keep you afraid of your job, or they can keep you afraid for your child, they can keep you afraid about where you're going to shop, they know they can coerce you. So just be clear on that, but just talk about the mandates and talk about your lawsuit, and then we can move on to our next piece.
Right, so America's Frontline Doctors is really the new civil rights organization. We're really taking the place of the ACLU, which does not stand up for your rights. I feel this very, very strongly. When Mayor de Blasio put out a mandate saying that everybody had to be vaccinated, and he didn't take into account that Black people are getting vaccinated at a much lower rate than white people. Specifically, young Black New Yorkers, I think, are being vaccinated at a rate of 24%, and whites are, I forget the exact number, but it's much higher. So Mayor de Blasio is saying that Black people can't go into businesses, can't just live normal lives in New York City. I say that that's racist on its face. You don't have to show a racist intent. You have to show that there's a disparate impact. There's a disproportionate impact on Black people, and that cannot happen. I say to Mayor de Blasio, it's not just that you're telling Black people to go to the back of the bus. You're actually telling Black people they can't get on the bus. I have a problem with that. America's Frontline Doctors filed out Mayor de Blasio about 7 or 10 days ago. We'll get our first response in about a week. I will definitely keep you posted.
All right, well, you know what, Doc, I really appreciate your time. And Dr. Lee,
Well, there we are, family. Our little 5 minutes of the day. Something to give you something to think about, and more importantly, someone to pray about to the Most High Yahuwah Eloheinu, our beloved, magnificent Master who is most merciful, and he knows exactly how to handle these devils. Yah Shalom, Alahim, hallelujah.